everyone. Alastair here, and welcome back to the AI Cognitive Shift. Here we explore AI's impact on society, culture, and the future of work. And this podcast is a collaboration with my own show, the Venture Variety Show, and AInews.com. I'm really excited to bring you today's guest. It's Tatyana Mamut. She's CEO and co-founder of WayFound. That's a platform built to help manage AI agents. Tatyana has a background in anthropology and product leadership, and she shares how AI can free us to be more human. So let's dive in and meet Tatyana.
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining the show. Start us off. Tell us about yourself and the company, WayFound.
Great. So I am the founder, co-founder, and CEO of WayFound.ai. We are an AI agent supervision and management platform. So we have built an AI agent whose only job is to manage and supervise other AI agents so that non-technical business people can really understand what their AI agents are doing, give them guidelines, get alerts when maybe they aren't adhering to the guidelines exactly, and also have their agents explain to the business owners of the process what they're doing. Prior to this, I was a product leader at many big Silicon Valley tech firms like Amazon Web Services, Salesforce, Pendo, chief product officer at Nextdoor. And so for me, technology has really been a passion. I got into this work, though, by being an anthropologist. So I have a PhD in anthropology, and applying the things that I know about humans and culture change to technology has always been the way that I approach this work.
Just a little bit more about your use of AI agent. So is it primarily used by managers in an enterprise kind of setting?
So our platform is, think about it as the AI agent manager's chief of staff. So if you are a person who is deploying AI agents in your function, say you're the head of customer success, the VP of customer success, and you have AI agents that are doing some of the front lines in handling customer questions for customer service. You are managing a lot of agents. So our platform, yes, works with you to give you the tools and all the analytics and all of the ways to help you manage those agents, because you've got a lot of work to do. You're deploying these agents to save you time. You can't spend all your time reading exactly what the agents are doing or going through really long review and approvals processes. So we are the AI agent manager's chief of staff. We call it a manager, but it's really a manager helper, right, for the human manager of AI agents.
Would the AI agents be at any level, say at a CEO level?
Yeah, so I am the CEO of a company right now, and we are a team of 29. 7 of those are humans, they're Homo sapiens, and 22 of them are AI sapiens, they're AI agents. And I, as the CEO, have a central dashboard, which of course is WayFound, where I go in and I look at all those agents, I look at how they're performing, I look at how they're doing. Some of the agents that I have personally developed and written are things like the investor update agent. So we have an AI agent that goes into a lot of our analytics, to a lot of our financial dashboards and tools, and pulls information. And then when investors have questions about our current financials or the state of the business, they don't ask me, they ask our investor update agent. So that's an agent that maybe is at that CEO level, right? Because normally investors would just call the CEO for, very basic questions around the state of the business. But our investors actually talk to our investor agent. I also have a customer discovery agent that we built on Zapier that actually coalesces all of the customer conversations that I've done over the past week, and then synthesizes those into insights, and then tells me at the end of the week, here are the interesting things that have come out of my conversations with customers. Here are the ways that the customer requests align to the current roadmap and what the engineers are doing. And that then gives me the insight to manage my business better. So there are definitely agents that we are using, that I am using as a CEO, that's really helping me manage my business.
So it's fascinating to see how from my perspective, how AI agents are shaping work. What type of feedback have you gotten so far? Anything surprising on how people are interacting with the agents?
One of the most surprising things for business people, especially who, most of the time they don't have direct insight into how AI agents are working and they
Mm,
can't directly go in and ask AI agents to explain what they're doing
mm,
because it's often intermediated by the engineering team that has to pull the log files and then do a bunch of interpretation and stuff like that. With Wayfound, business users and CEOs, people who are not technical, see exactly what AI agents are doing and can interrogate them directly and ask them to explain themselves. Why did they do this? Why did they do that? And one of the things that's really surprising when people get into it is when they're building agent to agent architecture. So we have several agents that interact with each other to complete a workflow, or several agents that have access to other agents to help them complete their work. They sometimes argue. This is something that is super interesting once you see the transcripts and you see the session recordings of the calls that agents are making to each other, and they interact almost like humans. Like one agent will ask another agent for a piece of information. Like we have our sales agent connected to another agent that's connected to the product roadmap agent that can answer questions about what's coming up soon in the product roadmap in terms of product releases. And sometimes an agent will ask another agent, "Hey, what is what's next on the roadmap for the agent force integration?" And the agent might answer, "Oh, I don't have that information." And then the other agent says, "I think you do have that information. Can you please check again?" And then the first agent will come back and say, "Oh, you're right. I actually did have that information," and then answer correctly. It's really interesting how agents, when you let them run long enough, when you actually are able to read exactly what's happening, they really do seem very similar to how human teammates interact. It's not surprising because they're trained on human data and they're trained on transcripts of how humans interact at work. So it's not surprising that they would do this, but it's also a little surprising, isn't it? It doesn't feel like software. It doesn't. Now that I've been working with these 22 agents, it started out with a few and it's grown to 22. I actually did just offboard a couple of weeks ago as well. I used to have 26. Now I have 22. It's really interesting how I feel like I'm managing them like I'm managing human employees, not like I'm just running software in the background. It is a real mindset shift to manage AI agents. And especially when you have them doing business critical processes and you're relying on them to like answer your investors' questions, for example, like the stakes are high and you really want to start interacting with them and understanding what they're doing.
Do you use pronouns to describe them or names at all?
We do not
Okay.
anthropomorphize our AI
Mm-mm.
agents. They
Okay.
are the sales agent, they're the investor update agent, they're the customer discovery agent. We describe them in terms of their role,
Hmm.
and we don't name them because why? Like it feels weird.
Right. Understood.
And yeah, and it also confuses them. And I think because agents work really well when they're very clear on what their role is. And the clearer you can make it, like this is your role, this is your task, these are your goals, these are your guidelines. Any superfluous information or any hints of superfluous information is not helpful, right? So if you give it a name, well, maybe there's some piece of training data that name also correlates to some story that has been written. Could that cause confusion? It could. I mean, why? The utility of that is non-existent, in my opinion.
And remind me, how long has the company been around? How long have you been deploying AI agents?
We started building the platform a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so we incorporated in January of 2024, after we already had a prototype actually, and got our first customer around April of 2024. So we've been around for a while. Obviously, the technology has really been advancing, We've moved, on to reasoning models to do a lot of the analysis of AI agents. And we have a set of deterministic and non-deterministic LLM-based processes that we use to really analyze how well the agents work, how they need to be supervised, our alerts, how we have human in the loop approvals that are, helped through our platform. All of those things continue to be updated with the latest technology because we always stay on the state of the art models and we're always testing out the next model that's coming out.
Is there a common misconception about AI agents that you'd like to, dispel?
Well, the first one is that the LLMs are stochastic parrots. They are not. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. They're not just regurgitating the data that they've been given if you build them correctly. You can constrain them to just do exactly what you've trained them to do, but that actually takes away the power of this technology. So it's just like hiring really, really smart humans and putting them on an assembly line where you tell them exactly what to do and exactly where to put the next word and exactly where to put the next widget. Do you need that? Like, is that what you want to do? Or do you want to give, these really intelligent systems the power, the freedom, the agency, right, to find better solutions than what you might have ever thought of? So I think one of the big misconceptions is that this can be managed just like regular software. It can't. Or if you try to, you're going to actually diminish the utility of the technology. The way that you actually get the most out of intelligence is to allow intelligence to have some agency, to allow it to find new, more creative solutions. It's like the AlphaGo Move 37, right? If they had constrained AlphaGo to only the moves that humans had thought of in the past or that were pre-approved by, human judges, Move 37 never would have been invented, never would have happened. That ability for this new intelligence to come up with novel solutions is precisely why some companies will win who really get that. And the companies that are just deploying LLM calls every once in a while within a preset workflow are not going to get very far with it. And eventually they're going to lose. They're going to spend a lot of money on trying to deploy this. And then they're going to find that they're going to be outcompeted by the people and the companies that are more forward thinking and that are actually using all of the capabilities of this technology, which includes creativity.
With your anthropology background, how have you noticed the 7 human employees interacting with the AI agents at WayFound itself? Are having agents, having to manage them, not like software? Is it making people more human?
I think it is making people more human. And here's what I mean by that. So part of humanity is really understanding how we interact with each other. What are our relationships? What are our cultural norms? And how is our intuition playing into our decision making? When we as workers are tied down and bogged down to doing just rote processes like pulling information and synthesizing all of my customer discovery calls, like who would have done that if I didn't have an AI agent doing that? It either would have been me or my head of business operations, right? But that's not very human creative work. Nobody needs high-level judgment or intuition or real emotional intelligence to do that work. So by allowing an AI agent to do that work, we, the humans, can actually focus on understanding what do we do best and how do we build a culture in which the Homo sapiens focus on the customer relationships, the investor relationships. I don't need to answer rote customer questions. I can focus on the higher level customer relationships, right? Finding the interesting pieces of information to send to my customers that I have then analyzed and thought about how this new piece of AI research actually can take our business forward, or ask them for an insight about a customer that they may be connected to that I'm trying to get a deeper relationship with. So I'm able to focus on those human relational dynamics, the culture that I'm building inside the company, and how we are building the cultures with our customers, with our investors, with our employees, all of our partners and stakeholders, and allowing the AI agents just focus on those rote things that we need them doing. Now, those rote things might also be somewhat creative in terms of how they're produced, right? But I don't need to worry about those things anymore, right? Because the AI agents are doing them.
When you talk like that, do people tend to agree with you, or do they go in the opposite direction and, you know, say this is some kind of dystopian future? I guess I'm asking the question,
Yeah.
how do you how do you manage to keep such an upbeat attitude about it? Because I would imagine you get some blowback or some negative feedback.
There is a lot of fear. And I
Yeah.
think that it's not misplaced fear. Of course, change is really hard and change is terrifying. And especially change that you haven't chosen yourself is often very, very uncomfortable. But without change, there's no growth. There's a
Hmm.
reason it's called growing pains and not growing comforts. Okay. So we are being challenged as humans, as workers, as leaders to grow ourselves and to grow our organizations into a new form. This is difficult and this is painful. That pain should not translate into fear. When we're in fear, we make terrible fight or flight decisions that really don't help anyone in the long run. And the thing that I like to, kind of go back to is, as an anthropologist, I have studied many, many moments in human evolution when things were scary and humanity thought this is the end of the world or this is the end of jobs, right? So
Hmm.
imagine if you were, a factory, like a seamstress in New York City in 1850, and all these sewing machines are cropping up around you, and you realize there's going to be no more work for people who sew dresses by hand or make clothes by hand anymore, right? That's how the world looked for people who made things by hand in the 1800s. And yet, there were also the possibility at that very moment for the people who were not paralyzed by fear to create fashion magazines, to create department stores, to create whole new industries because there were sewing machines and because there was mass produced clothing. Now that actually created an opportunity for the people who were not paralyzed by fear, not in a fight or flight mode, and actually took the time to imagine what the next future would be. And so I am there. Fear never served anyone. Being paralyzed by fear never served anyone. And especially in this moment, the future belongs to the people who can move forward with adaptability, optimism, and a realistic expectations of, how they're going to get there. So again, if we're adaptable, if we're optimistic, if we really look at the technology, learn from it, are realistic about what it can do today, but also
Hmm.
optimistic about what it's going to happen tomorrow and next month and next year, because the technology is moving really fast. So just because something doesn't work right now does not mean it's not going to work next week.
Hmm.
So the future belongs to those of us who can actually maintain that mindset and move our organizations forward.
Excellent. And you were reading my mind, I assume, because I wanted to get to the jobs question. It's an issue that comes up a lot in the show, and when I talk to people about AI, there is a lot of anxiety around job displacement, about losing jobs. Do you see? Well, how should we be thinking about AI agents? Kind of, drafting off of what you were just saying. Is it a way to, create new jobs for humans?
It's exactly the same thing we've seen before.
Hmm.
Let me give you another example.
Please.
In 1800, 90% of the US population were farmers.
Hmm.
Today, it's 2%. So when people say AI isn't going to take your job, somebody using AI is going to take your job, it's kind of like the same farming analogy, right? So, yeah, a farmer using a tractor took the job of all the farmers who weren't using tractors, but there are a lot fewer farmers today. But is anybody out of work? Or do fewer people have jobs? No. Are fewer people starving than 1800? Yes. So this is the other thing that we have to remember. When farming, jobs really decreased, remember, farming is how people eat. That's how most people ate in 1800, right? Is that they farmed their own land. So a lot of people thought there was going to be mass starvation. Like right now, we should be starving because we're not farming, right? Did it turn out that way? No, malnutrition went down, not up, once people stopped farming, or most people stopped farming. And so this is short-sightedness. It is myopia mixed with a lack of imagination. That's what it is. When people ask these questions, so the answer is yes, there will be far fewer people writing marketing copy. There will be far fewer people coding. There would be far fewer people doing all the things that people are mostly doing in the knowledge economy today. And that's okay, because as long as we move forward with optimism, adaptability, and imagination, you're going to be not just fine, you're going to be better than you are today. But you got to have the attitude that this is not just because the thing that you've been training yourself to do, for, 20 or 30 years is going away. Like, you have to treat it as a good thing and imagine what's next. You have to be that farmer who moved to the city and opened up a shop, or moved to the city and, learned how to use, factory tools, as opposed to the farmer who, stayed and cried because, he wasn't able to be farming the same way because somebody else with a tractor came and took over his land and is doing it cheaper. So, there will be some people who are using AI tools in their current jobs, but I've got news for you. It's not going to be a lot. So that's not the answer for everybody. It's not the answer for everybody. But you will be using AI tools and imagining new things. That's where the game is going to be played.
And that's a perfect segue to my next question. Maybe, 5 years, 10 years from now, how do you expect people will be using AI agents, in the future? Yes.
So nobody knows. Okay, so let me just say nobody knows what's going to happen, right? Because we're entering the singularity time horizon here, right? So all bets are off. But
okay.
Here,
sorry, go ahead.
Again, I'm gonna tell you the anthropological answer.
Okay.
We are right now at the cusp of a huge evolutionary moment in human society. It is like the evolutionary moment when we went from multiple species of hominids, right? Like where we had Neanderthals and Homo sapiens and other species living side by side, to just Homo sapiens. We're actually doing that right now, only the opposite. So instead of just having a society of Homo sapiens where we interact with the only other intelligent species we've ever lived with, were other humans. Well, not anymore. There's going to be this new technology. It's going to be embodied in robots pretty soon. And we're going to have to learn to live with it. We're going to have to create a culture that is adaptable to both AI intelligence, right? AI sapiens and Homo sapiens. So we are at a juncture right now where we are grappling with one of the biggest social and evolutionary moments in human history. And how we proceed from here is critically important. And I just want to say something that I'm often criticized for saying, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Go ahead.
We should not enslave AI. Slavery never ends well. Never. No matter what justification you have, no matter what reasons you think that this is a, unworthy species, no matter what reasons you can point to biologically or whatever, scientifically, that you think that justify enslaving another intelligence, doesn't end well. It doesn't end well. And so we really need to look at ourselves and look at our culture, both first in how we work, because where AI agents are going to enter first in our society is at work. I think consumer is much further behind workplace. And so our workplace cultures and CEOs, workplace leaders, board members are really going to have to grapple with how are we redesigning our work cultures to be multi-sapiens. And then those lessons will then to start translate into when we start bringing AI into our homes in the form of AI robots, when we start bringing AI into our classrooms, when we start bringing AI into lots of other contexts. So how we redesign our workplaces and how we redesign our workplace cultures to be multi-sapiens is critically important. And when I look out 5 years in the future, how we answer that, how do we build a multi-sapiens culture, is going to frame almost everything about how our lives will turn out 5 to 10 years from now. Because if that culture is mutually beneficial, mutually respectful, truly positive, and value creating for all involved, it will be wonderful. If it is not those things, it could be pretty terrible. Our mission at WayFound is trust and intelligence. Since day one, that has always been what we've been doing, is trying to create the platforms, the systems, the institutions for Homo sapiens to trust AI sapiens and vice versa. And in order to do that, we have to have both intrinsic and extrinsic tools and systems and institutions for us to build this trust as we move forward.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for all your thoughts and time. Appreciate it, Tatyana Mamut from WayFound. Very fascinating.
Thank you, Alastair.
Thanks for tuning in to the AI Cognitive Shift. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe and check out my program, The Venture Variety Show, as well as the AInews.com channel. If you got feedback or guest suggestions, drop a comment. We'd love to hear from you. And if this episode resonated, please share it. Thanks again, and until next time, bye-bye.